If there's any justice at all, the black hole will be your grave.
Take the young lady to the hospital.
Creepy
Good, Ray,
motherfucker.
that I call you a young lady.
I confused you horribly just then. Access my feminine side.
Don't crash your car. I'm going to help with that one.
This over here is the best Disney sci-fi movie made
ever. Oh, so far. and until they make Alita 2.
Look at you. I'm doing this on purpose, and let me explain why.
He's an IT guy. He should keep it at that.
Let me explain why. I think I almost got my sci-fi card revoked.
In the next episode, we're gonna change the podcast name to The Bullshit Remnants. People can breathe on this movie on what are spacesuits for? Really? What are spacesuits for?
And if you're new to the show, my name is Robert, and I am your host.
And this is Gio, Captain Chaos. And who do we have in the land of Down Under?
Oh, it's Mad Scientist Ray. way down here in Australia in the future.
And before we continue, I would have to say, I am inviting all of our listeners and everybody that is listening to the show to reach out. The link is on our description to our Mad Scientist Ray and our Geo, our Captain Chaos, and join me in saying happy birthday to them. So this episode is going to come out close enough. So it's already going to be late by the time this episode comes out. But, happy birthday to the both of you.
Thank you.
So Gio's birthday is the 9th of August and mine's the 10th of August. So yeah, we couldn't have got much closer.
Right back at you, buddy.
you're only 25 minutes off being on the 10th.
Yeah, literally. But hey, I have actually many friends that their birthday is on August, and they all tell me that we from August celebrate the whole month.
Seems fair.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been watching this week?
Anything?
Sci-fi?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi?
Sci-fi.
I don't know sci-fi.
Sci-fi. I watched the last episode of Strange New Worlds.
Okay.
We have gone back to the Gorn, which is exciting. But I would have to say, and I'm going to repeat what I said on Twitter. Let me correct myself. On X. When I said, who needs sports when you have Strange New Worlds? And let me explain why. I scream, and Ray, I think you know where I'm going with this. If you saw that episode, I scream just like someone that is watching their favorite quarterback making a touchdown.
It was Robert watching Star Trek. Teleportation!
But let me don't mind him. He's crazy.
I thought I should have known him by now.
So let me explain why. And I'm going to put a big, huge spoilers for you guys, because I know we're talking about Black Hole and we are going to spoil that. But I know we're not talking about Strange New Worlds. So I just want to make sure that if you have not watched the last episode, you want to fast forward.
Spoiler alert.
There's going to be a
spoiler alert.
So Montgomery Scott came out and I lost it. I completely lost it. Like I said, it was like, you watch a guy watching his favorite, touchdown on the sport.
Are you sure that was the same as watching sports, or it was like a Swift Taylor's fan watching Swift Taylor?
No, it was definitely sport. It was definitely sport. So
I don't have an answer for that.
And
thank you for that, Siri.
Thank you, Siri. I know you want to be in the episode, but you can't be. So I'm sorry.
She's making her way into the show, actually, because every 2 or 3 episodes she actually barges in.
So Ray, I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you. So I hope that you watch that episode. Otherwise,
No, not yet. But it's okay. I'll have forgotten by the time I get to it. I'm good like that.
Okay, so
Do we have a plot?
Captain Chaos.
Do we have segments?
No, we don't have no segment, no plots. That doesn't
great.
exist.
That's what I like, man. Yay!
What have you watched?
Complete chaos.
Actually, sci-fi. I rewatched Matrix Resurrection.
Oh, nice.
I also rewatched Interstellar.
Yes.
I love that's a movie that I go back to at least every once or 2 months.
Yes.
What else? I started watching Psycho Pass. Pretty interesting, actually.
I have to watch that.
Very good sci-fi. Very good sci-fi anime, actually. What do you think about that one? Have you watched Psycho Pass, Ray?
I've seen half of it so far. And,
Do you like it?
Yeah,
It's very cerebral. It's not like packed action and a whoa, 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 but it's very interesting psychological.
Yeah, it's a bit slow burn, I got to say.
Yeah.
It didn't keep me riveted like some other stories did, but it had some good points to it. We should cover it at some point.
Oh yeah, I think that I added it to our list, actually, Psychopaths. And now that I watch it, yeah, and I start watching, but from some reason that I cannot remember now, as many things, I didn't finish watching a rewatch of Gantz, the movie, the animated movie, not the anime, on Netflix.
Yeah, I love that. That anime is
and I've been watching a lot of all the shit that is not sci-fi.
Yeah.
I've turned them both into anime nerds.
I was already. You just kind of like rekindle that flame.
I was an otaku, so
I still owe you a list of isekai animes. Good isekai animes.
You do, man. Actually, the one that I'm watching was a cousin of mine that was telling me, because I was watching the one that you gave me, which I killed it like in 1 day and a half. And not anymore.
So what have you been watching, Ray?
Well, I normally catch 1 or 2 episodes of current animes every day. So I've caught 1 or 2 more episodes of The Gene of AI, which you guys covered while I was away. But it was it's really good. It just keeps getting better. I won't spoil though, but everybody should go and watch that one.
4 of that one. I need to catch up with it.
I am on episode 1 because I refuse to be stuck waiting a week for the next episode.
Yeah. I have that problem with Mushoku Tensei, because the latest episode just dropped and I'm like, come on, work out that that's Sufi already, you dumb fuck.
Bro, Mushoku Tensei, I watched the whole first season dubbed, and then I was so hooked on it, I just watched for the rest of it. I think it was like 5 episodes on Japanese subbed, and I just watched it. I was like, fuck it. I need to.
It's about 3 weeks behind the dubbing. There are some actual animes that have instantaneous dubs, which I wish Mushoku Tensei did, but it doesn't.
Yeah. So before we continue, should we go into our first segment?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-fi.
And if you are new to the show, you know This is Sci-Fi is a hashtag that we created to try to bring the audience together. So we wanted to get a place where all sci-fi fans would get together. It's a one-stop shop for all kinds of IPs. So This is Sci-Fi is a way that if you have a favorite sci-fi, you want to go ahead and post and you want to follow. And that way, other people that might not have experience to the IP that you have or that you love will actually learn about. And it was so much fun to see what's going on lately. I mean, I remember at the beginning there wasn't much going on, but right now it has expanded to many different other things where there's a big conversation happening about different IPs. And you might ask, okay, there's different IP, there's different communities online that you can find. But that was the problem for me. Like, if you are like me, where you like all kinds of sci-fi, you don't want to go to those silos. I mean,
Yeah.
I do go to the silos, obviously,
Of
because I
course.
I love all those. But you wanted to find a place where all of them are joined together. And this is it. This is sci-fi.
The nicest thing about that hashtag is that there's no gatekeeping there. You'll find like-minded folks that enjoy what you enjoy. And like I like to tell everybody, is the best way for you to find your niche on there, on the whole universe of sci-fi, is to accompany this is sci-fi hashtag by whatever other hashtags of things that you like. And I promise you, you're gonna find exactly what you're looking for, and you don't have to thank me for it. We're all here to be part of that community and bring them all together.
Yeah,
And,
and
and, and believe it or not, Robert does watch other things besides just Star Trek.
Yes, he does. He does.
yes, I do.
Orisokodoji.
Oh God. Moving on.
Oh, I was going to say that the excitement is palpable because in a bit over a week from the date of recording, Ahsoka is going to start dropping. So
oh my God.
everybody is so excited.
Oh yes, that is, and I can't wait.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the reveal of God. Now the
Thrawn?
name's gone. Thrawn. Thank you.
Yeah.
I read those books like 20 years ago. I'm just waiting now.
You didn't think you would live to see the day, yeah?
I didn't. I really didn't. I just thought, like, I'm never going to see the big blue bastard. He's
That's
never going to show up.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cool thing is if you watch the animated show Rebels, you get to see a little bit, what he was all about. But this is really exciting to me, at least, is because this show will bring back all those rebel characters that have only existed in animation form, and they brought it up to live action, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, it should be awesome.
So going back to the hashtag, that's the kind of thing that you want to go in there. And many people, and I say this all the time, many people think, oh, Star Wars. Everybody knows about Star Wars. I'm not going to even bother on posting anything. And you'll be shocked to know that there has been cases that we've seen where people that have not seen like big IPs like this, or at least a specific, I'm not going to say the big IP as a general, but the big IPs usually have different things that spawn from that IP.
Yeah.
That you might assume that everybody has seen, and you'll be surprised how people have not seen, or people that refuse to see it because they hate it.
You might be even surprised of things that you didn't know that existed.
Exactly. So that's the whole idea. And we are if you want to get involved, reach out to us. We are everywhere. Threads. We are on Instagram. We are in
Discord. You can find
X.
us actually live on Discord.
Discord, and we even have a Discord. If you are a sci-fi creator, that you can reach out to us, and we can join. We can get you in. So yeah, just reach out and get involved. If you love sci-fi as much as we do, you're not going to be disappointed.
And also, but not least, our hotline.
Yes.
If you want to leave a message, actually, or hate mail from me, I love him. You can actually just give us a call, actually, to the 305-563-6334. That is 305-563-6334. So go ahead, call us. You can leave us a message. You can leave a message for somebody you like that you want us to play on our episode. Or you can tell us, you can say to the world anything you like, and we can be that outlet for you. We welcome all kinds of messages. So go on, give it a call.
Yeah, and we, if you like, also you can give us a topic of conversation.
We take suggestions for episodes.
Yeah, we'll play it on the show, and we'll have a conversation based on your topic.
And if you're not shy, we can even invite you for the episode.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Oh yes, we're game for that. So, are we ready for the next one?
I think we are, man.
Shoutouts.
Well, for these shoutouts, actually, first and foremost, I want to remember everybody that we're part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. go and check it out. You can pause right now, actually. Like I like to say in every episode, they have a great variety of content creator, and it gets to expand more and more every day. So go and check it out. There's all sorts of content there. They have a Discord too. They have a website. They are on Instagram. They're on all social medias that you can think of, and they have their website too. So go and check them out. I will suggest you to find them easier through Instagram or by X, formerly Twitter, and you can find in their profile practically their website, which will take you to any other social medias that you want, YouTube, you name it. Um, Now let's move to our mentions. Actually, the first one is that's the Scuttlebutt Scary Podcast is the actual tag. You
Bro.
still owe me a drinking game. I'm never gonna forget. I'm a grudgy motherfucker. We're gonna play that, man. Revenge is coming. I'll make sure to get trash, but I'll take you with me. Next, actually, somebody very close to our hearts is the podcast that wouldn't die.
Yeah,
And
they wouldn't
their,
die.
their tag, yeah, they won't. They're immortal, man. And their tag is actually T Podcast TY Die. So go and check them out. They are an awesome podcast. I definitely suggest you. They also talk about all sort of cool movies, a lot of reminiscence about nostalgic movies, 80s, 90s, great things, and new stuff too. They doesn't limit to anything new or all. Next one, actually, the Geek to Me Radio and their tag on Twitter or X. You can find it at Geek to Me Radio, just like it reads. Always bringing cool guests and stars that are part of the beloved all-time favorites. So go ahead and give it a listen. I definitely suggest them. Next is BK on the Air, and you can find them on X also by BK on the Air, just like that. Boy, Katie on the Air. Always sharing great film reference and taking and talking about classic titans of filmmaking. You must listen to them. They're very, very good. And last but not least, Mr. D. And his tag is Rami with double N and Y. Rami Ace85. Go and check him out. He's my favorite voice actor. That guy is so cool, man. You must listen to him. He is awesome, man. And that's all for our shout outs for this episode.
Awesome. So I don't know if we should go to the next segment or not.
No, let's just move on the movie without plot, man. Why are we going to plot it? We don't have a baking crazy noodles robot making thing. So. Well, he makes noodles.
Crazy noodles. What are they?
Vincent noodles.
Well, I don't know where people had been, so that's why I was wondering if we should move on to that.
Do we have another remnant?
Yes, we do.
No, we don't, right?
The
outer remnant.
Am I a mute or something?
I had been in my house.
I've been here all over the place, bro. All over the place. Space diarrhea. Okay, TMI.
You got that right.
Ray. Ray is like the guy that is always out there.
Yeah.
You know, putting space in front of a lot of words improves them, but nothing improves diarrhea. So
No, it doesn't.
No.
Do you think that it smells in outer space, or just the sight of it makes you? It stinks so much that it's ingrained in your brain. So you just look at it and it stinks on your brain without smelling it.
if it's on the inside of your space helmet, yes.
Yes,
it would-
that would be a bad thing.
It really would.
I mean, space diarrhea at least is all the way down there, but imagine space barf.
Well,
And how you gonna clean that glass when it gets splashed? You gotta go like,
shoot.
okay, let's go.
Should we talk about Alita?
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I think we should change topics and
I'd rather talk about Alita.
I want to up the tone a bit. Let's move on.
Vomiting in space for these sci-fi guys.
Okay. So Ray, where have you been?
I
man?
have been on Radio Chaos episode 176. The topic was the last action heroine is Alita in a class of her own, and we discussed about Alita, what sort of a heroine she is. Is she even a heroine? Is she an anti-hero? That sort of thing. And comparing her to other IPs. And it was an interesting discussion. It wandered off every now and again into completely unrelated fields, but we managed to wander back again. For some reason, every time that Tony, who's one of the regulars, shows up, we have to talk about Ken. I don't know why. He's always talking about being Knuff and all this sort of stuff. So we suffer through that. But yeah, it was a good episode. We had a lot of fun. So check that out if you're part of the Alita Army. Looking forward to getting those sequels, which we certainly are. So that's where I was.
Remember, everybody, if you're not part of it, go to YouTube and type Alita Army and subscribe. Okay,
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's very easy. And I say it so many times. If you like Alita and you want a part 2,
You're part of it.
You're part of it. So
It's a low bar.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. It's a great conversation. Okay, so going back to the question that Captain Chaos asked, do we even have a plot?
Yes, we do. We didn't last week though, because if you don't know what the plot of Matrix is by now, are you really a sci-fi fan?
Isn't it about people that are hooked into the machine being fed noodles? And then they actually get a noodle plug into the back of their heads to go into the noodle burst.
It's human noodles. It's like Soylent Green noodles.
And Sentinels are like robots with noodles on the back.
I think I'm going to coin the phrase noodleverse.
Noodleverse.
That's where Geo lives, in the noodleverse.
Yeah.
Okay, so
College time.
give us the
Wow.
plot.
I don't think I can now. I'm noodles on the brain. Okay. So we're talking about The Black Hole, the 1979 movie, which had a budget of 20 million, which isn't a lot these days, and a box office of 35.8 in Canada and the US. So it made a bit of money. I remember going to see it at the cinema, so they got cinema ticket prices out of me. I mean, it wasn't a huge success, but it was, it's a space Disney movie. I'll go see it. Of course, 1979, I was 10, so a lot of the sort of darker elements of this movie, and it is quite dark. I mean, you can look at any of these movies as a social interaction in a particular place or milieu. So you've got a social interaction between a narcissist and a bunch of castaways on a big ass gothic spaceship.
He was a psychopath. He was a psychopath motherfucker too.
Well, he was definitely narcissistic. You can tell by the way he was patting himself on the back so much he broke his arm several times.
Oh God.
But I do also believe that this is the best sci-fi movie that Disney has produced so far. That will be until Alita 2.
Well, just consider
I
this
think
is
that John Carter goes beyond.
No, but let me explain, because I know you were going to go there. I knew it. Here's the thing. This is 1979. This is the same Disney. They had Cinderella. It had The Sleeping Beauty. These are the kind of movies at the time that Disney was producing. There was no John Carter. There was no Alita. There was no Marvel. There was no Star Wars. It was just Disney.
Yeah.
And this is, and I know it's dated. I know it's really dated. I mean, I was 9 years old.
Correct me. Star Wars became part of Disney after the fact?
A lot later.
Okay.
A lot later.
It was Lucasfilm owned by George Lucas for many years.
He's saying Alita, like Alita wasn't the next best thing. There was a lot of good sci-fi movies by Disney before Alita too. Yes. I'm saying that Alita is not.
No, but the thing is that I'm talking. This is the Disney pre-merger.
Okay.
This is the Disney. This is when Disney was Disney and not part of like Marvel and.
He makes a lot of sense.
Disney doesn't actually make Marvel movies. Marvel makes Marvel movies. Disney owns them.
Mm-hmm.
Disney doesn't make Toy Story and all those movies.
Pixar
makes them, but Disney owns Pixar. It's not a case of, this is a case of a movie that Disney made themselves.
Exactly.
Which is the difference. I mean, Disney owns Alita now. They bought the company.
Yeah, you can tell actually that they learn from trial and error, because you can see better scientifically plausible movies now.
Well, but if you think about it, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, but Disney still doesn't make sci-fi.
Not really.
It's like if you look at, for example, Star Wars, that's Lucasfilm, which
Yeah.
is they're their own entity. They're just owned by Disney. If you look at John Carter, would that be an exception though?
John Carter is
Yeah.
very fantasy if you think about it. Very, very. Just I think that John Carter falls in the same aspect as Star Wars, per se. when it
Science
comes-
fantasy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
But Alita was isn't that? Am I wrong saying Fox? I don't know why. When I
yeah.
say
20th Century Fox made
Yeah.
Alita, and it was the last movie they released under their own name before the merger.
so, if you see Disney still doesn't really make sci-fi.
What about Avatar? Pandora's
Avatar?
World. That was Disney. Wasn't
No,
it?
Avatar was 20th Century Fox.
Oh, okay.
The original Avatar was released under 20th Century Fox.
Okay.
Do you know that the lines get blurred?
Yeah.
Because since Disney owns all these companies, all you see is Disney. Because obviously they're going to make their money by advertising
Disney.
these because they own it, right? They
Yeah.
want to make their money back. But if you really go back to the movies, you realize Fox, Lucasfilm, Marvel, all the
Betamax.
Betamax. So yeah,
A-Train.
So going back,
Celluloid,
So,
cave paintings. How far are we going back here?
Rando electrolytes. Rando.
and if you haven't listened to that episode, you can pause us, go back, and listen to what was the name of that episode?
Idiocracy.
The-
The best president the United States ever had.
Come
It
at you.
will have.
Terry Crews, man.
It's the future.
Awesome. Brando.
So Ray, as we normally do, we start a plot and then we
Yeah.
go somewhere else. So can we go back to the
I
plot?
can try. Okay, in 2130, at least it hasn't passed yet, the spacecraft USS Palomino has nearly completed its mission exploring deep space. The crew consists of Captain Dan Holland, First Officer Lieutenant Charles Pfizer, journalist Harry Booth, who gets the award for most stupid fuckhead in the entire movie. Oh, God.
Oh, wow.
ESP sensitive scientist Dr. Kate McRae and expedition civilian leader Dr. Alex Durant and the diminutive robot Vincent, which stands for Vital Information Necessary Centralized. They really had to push to get that acronym. They really, really had to push it to get that acronym. Anyway.
Oh my God.
As it is returning to Earth, the Palomino discovers a black hole with the apparently abandoned and long lost USS Cygnus nearby, the same ship that McRae's father was aboard when it vanished 20 years ago. Cygnus X1 is the first known black hole discovered in 1964, after which the scientific vessel is presumably named. So there you go. There's a little bit of trivia. The Palomino decide to investigate and finds that there is a mysterious null gravity field surrounding the Cygnus that allows it to defy the massive gravitational pull of the black hole. The Palomino briefly strays outside the field and is damaged by the intense gravity, forcing it to emergency dock with the Cygnus, which no longer appears abandoned. The cautious Palomino crew soon encounter Dr. Hans Reinhardt, one of Earth's most brilliant scientists, according to Durant. Reinhardt explains that he has been alone on the Cygnus since it encountered a meteor field and was disabled. He ordered the human crew to return to Earth without him, but Kate's father chose to remain aboard and has since died. To replace the crew, Reinhardt has built faceless black robot drones, sentry robots, and his sinister bodyguard robot, Maximilian. Reinhardt says he intends to fly the Cygnus through the black hole because 20 years of study has shown that it is possible. Only an enamored Durant believes him and asks if he can accompany Reinhardt. However, the rest of the Palomino crew start to become suspicious of Reinhardt. Booth sees a drone limping while Holland witnesses an android's funeral and discovers the personal items of the Cygnus crew quarters. Vincent meets a battered early model of his type named Bob, Biosanitization Battalion.
Bob.
One of these really bad acronyms. Bob explains that the drones are actually what's left of the human crew, who mutinied when Reinhardt refused to return to Earth after the Cygnus was damaged. McRae's father was killed leading the mutiny, and the crew was lobotomized and reprogrammed to serve Reinhardt. Vincent uses telepathy to tell Kate, because Kate and Vincent are connected by a telepathic link. After she informs Durant what really happened, he removes the drone's faceplate, revealing a zombie-like face of a crew member. Durant tries to flee with Kate, but is killed by Maximilian.
Apparently to its own accord.
And in a very Disney way.
It just felt like it. He was having a bad day. Had to kill somebody. Feel better. Reinhardt orders his robots to lobotomize Kate. That was our quote, by the way.
Take her to the hospital. Hey, we're not advising anybody not to go to hospital, okay? Full disclosure.
Just don't go to that hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a good hospital.
The one that
Zero stars would not go again.
Yeah, if you see a black hole next to the hospital,
don't go to that one.
Don't go to that one.
Good point. Yeah, okay. Good advice. But just as the process begins, she is rescued by Holland, Vincent, and Bob. Harry Booth tries to escape alone on the Palomino. Harry Booth tries to escape alone on the Palomino. That's the guy who I said is the MVP of idiots. Yeah. But is shot down and fatally crashes into the Cygnus. A subsequent meteor storm and the explosion of the ship's overstressed main power plant caused the anti-gravity generator to fail. Without its null gravity bubble, the Cygnus quickly starts to break apart under the black hole's huge gravitational forces. Reinhardt and the Palomino survivors separately planned to escape using a probe ship that was used to study the black hole. Reinhardt orders Maximilian to prepare the ship for launch, but then a large view screen falls on Reinhardt, pinning him to the deck. He cries for help. His cries for help are not acknowledged by the lobotomized crew, nor Maximilian, who ignores his master and pursues the Palomino crew as he attempts to escape. It's not well programmed. Just does his own thing. Like, screw you, boss. I'm going to go and kill some people now. Meanwhile, the crew near the probe ship before being confronted by Maximilian. He fatally damages Bob before battling with Vincent as McRae, Holland, and Pfizer continue to the probe. Vincent defeats his opponent by drilling into Maximilian's armor, disabling his systems, and sending him hurtling into the black hole. Holland, Pfizer, McRae, and Vincent launch the probe, which they soon realize has been reprogrammed to fly into the black hole. Within the black hole, the Cygnus completely breaks apart. The drifting Reinhardt and Maximilian merge together above the burning hellish landscape populated by dark-robed spectres resembling the Cygnus drones. Meanwhile, the probe ship is led through the cathedral-like arch of crystal tunnel by a floating angelic figure. That was very 2001, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Robert said that.
After the ship emerges from a white hole, Holland, Pfizer, McRae, and Vincent fly towards a planet near a bright star. Roll credits. And that awesome, awesome music.
There is so much in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's dated. And I know it might be slightly campy. Obviously, it was 1979, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like around the time where it was a year after Star Wars.
No, 2 years.
2 years. Okay. So, this movie in 1979 is obviously talking about black holes. And not only that, because, at that time, black holes are still something very common. Not as common as they are today, obviously, with all the promotions and all, the discovery of pictures of a black hole. But just take in consideration, since 1979, on top of that is introduction of the concept of white holes. It's surprising to me. And as a matter of fact, I don't even know that even Captain Chaos knew what a white hole was when I was mentioning it.
Nope.
So, in theory, and I don't know if Ray, if you want to jump into this one over here, but I'm going to make it very, very simple. In theory, the white hole is the opposite, the literal opposite of the black hole. So whatever the black hole does, the white hole is in reverse. So one of the things that I can say is, in a black hole, not even light escapes. In a white hole, everything escapes. Everything. Nothing can get in. So, do you agree with that simplistic? Very simplistic.
Well, I was probably going to save it for the science behind science fiction, but I've got a little bit of
We can save
slightly
them all.
long. I got a slightly longer description here. So, white holes were long thought to be a figment of general relativity, born from the same equations as their collapsed star brethren, black holes. More recently, however, some theorists have been asking whether these twin vortices of space-time may be two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
To a spaceship crew watching from afar, a white hole looks exactly like a black hole. It has mass. It might spin. A ring of dust or a gas cloud may gather around the event horizon, the bubble boundary separating the object from the rest of the universe. But if they keep watching, the crew might witness an event impossible for a black hole, a belch. It's only the moment when things come out that you can say, this is a white hole.
Exactly.
So black holes and white holes, they look the same, but they're functionally the opposite.
So, and if you understand where I'm coming with this is 1979, right? I know the concept was there in the scientific knowledge, and the scientific body of knowledge was already researching this, obviously. But I'm not talking about that, right? Because in the scientific community, research takes a long time. So it is not uncommon for a theory to be on there 20, 30 years, right? Where people are like just experimenting, improving, researching, experimenting, and just going into circles, because that's how science works. But what it surprises to me is this is a movie. This is not a scientific paper. And this is common.
Definitely.
Well, you could do a scientific paper on this movie, maybe. But what I'm talking about is it's a price. And I don't know if it's the same thing for you, Ray. I was 9 years old when this movie came out. So those concepts really escaped me at 9 years old. Mm-hmm. It's only after, and I never saw it at the theaters. I actually saw it when it came out on VHS. So I actually missed out on that opportunity, because it would have been a great experience to see this.
I was sitting in front of the biggest screen locally, because it was a country town, so like it had a big screen, but it wasn't like an IMAX or anything. But I was sitting in the front row, the biggest screen in town, and that initial opening CGI with the grid with the hole and spinning into it with the music playing, I was just blown away. I was like, at 10 years old.
The 13th floor.
That was so cool.
The 13th floor. Another episode you should get.
In space.
So apparently there's an overture on this film. And I feel like I have to talk about it, right? So I don't know if this was like only in the US, where when the movies, it was very it was very known for movies to start with a big score, and then the curtains open and the movie starts, and then you see the green grid come out. But the reason why I'm mentioning this, it's really not important when it happened or where it happened. The fact is that if you're actually watching this on Disney Plus, right, and you press play, and I don't know where you watched it last, Ray, but we watched it on Disney Plus for the US. When you press play, you start hearing this overture, the music, the score. It's really, really cool. But there's no visuals.
Yeah, it's blank. I thought there was something wrong with my video.
And that's
I'd forgotten about the overture.
It's all the same thing.
Actually, I don't know that I've actually experienced the overture until I just watched them, because I got the uncut version on DVD, but I'd never actually watched it because I'd watched it elsewhere on VHS and stuff like years ago. But yeah, it just plays and it's dark, and you're like, "This is busted."
And that's the reason why I want to bring it up, because you might think, and here's what typically should have happened in the past. You're sitting down in the movie theaters, the lights are still on, then the lights go down, and then spotlights go on an orchestra, and the orchestra starts playing the music. And when the music of the orchestra is finished, the light goes down, the curtain opens, and the film starts. Well, that's the wrong Hollywood company.
It isn't now; they own it. But
Yeah, it is now. So what happens cannot be replicated digitally. So when you press play, it's supposed to be the same experience, except you see a black hole.
You see the inside of my soul. Oh, delicious.
So if you're watching in Disney Plus and you press play and the music starts, don't think there's something wrong with your feed. Just let it play.
you've got about 40 seconds to get your popcorn and sit down.
Exactly.
Enjoy the depth of my soul.
Well, isn't the sound of silence, that's for sure.
So, yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I just wanted to mention that because I know if you have not watched this film and you listen to us and you pause us and you go to Disney Plus and you press play, you are going to think something's wrong with the film.
And you're going to probably rewind it 3 times like Robert did just to check what the heck was going on.
I completely forgot about it.
You rewind 3 times.
And Ray, did you forget about it too, or was it just?
I don't think I've ever seen it with the overture, but I read something about it while I was doing research. That it was one of the last movies produced with an overture at the beginning.
Literally, if Robert doesn't fast forward the movie to see that it actually was filmed after the overture, he would have kept on just going back to see what the heck was wrong.
And it just after the fact is when it hit me. But it would have been funny if I think there was something wrong with the feed, and I go to iTunes and buy the film, thinking
the same shit. Buy it twice for no reason.
He really should have like text down the bottom. This is an overture. Your TV set is working.
If you use scripted subtitles, probably.
Yeah, I turn my subtitles off, so maybe I don't know. I had to research and see if it actually says it on the subtitles. But yeah, I just have to say that. So if you are playing this movie and you don't see anything, then just either forward until the green illustration, or just enjoy the music. It's a great score, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
And it's all in minor chords, which makes the whole sort of creepy, haunting aspect really powerful.
Yeah.
That is a soundtrack that sounds inside my head when I go to sleep.
Chaos strikes again.
So this film, the scene where they are escaping or trying to escape, I got Star Wars Episode 4 vibes.
Yeah.
And you wonder, right? They always try to replicate. I mean,
it was pretty cool to see actually Darth Vader before he became someone.
Getting
beat up by R2D2 father.
And you saw Mustafar being created.
Yes.
that rolling ball of fire that turned into Mustafar.
There you go.
So like this,
and I mean the doctor. What was her name? The doctor lady. She was not Princess Leia, but damn that booty.
Dr. Oh my god. Dr. K. Micree. Okay, so this film tried to I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. Trying to replicate. Maybe that's not the right thing because
it had the similar vibe.
Not only, let me interject there, because he also had a lot of influences for things like Galactica.
Yes.
And a lot of reference and it has some similarities even with even Buck Rogers, like how Buck Rogers is very similar to Galactica too, but the robots look a lot more, the androids, to Galactica and Buck Rogers, the cyborgs,
kind of
than actually any android that you see in Star Wars. I think that Star Wars made sure Lucasfilm to be very authentic and unique on their creation too. So But yeah, that's what I felt when I said. And then the spacecraft had a very similarity to what we know as what the voyages were back in the time when we were doing space missions, sending voyages to deep space, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I have to say too, even they even try to replicate what happened with A New Hope. If you're familiar, if you're like from our generation, that we are, um, I was 7 years old when A New Hope came out. You remember the merchandise. Even now there's merchandise, and the merchandise that came out from back in '77 is actually right now costing a lot of money.
Best BDSM cosplays for Princess
No,
Leia's.
but I'm talking about the figurines and the
Ray just
merchandise.
smiles silently, like, yeah, baby.
So
Bring it.
I built a Bob. No, it wasn't a Bob. No, I built a Vincent. Sorry, I built a Vincent.
Vincent.
Oh god,
Yeah.
that's
So
cool.
so like what I'm trying to get to is that S- Star Wars was successful, and he has always been successful, and is still successful today in selling merchandise.
Yeah.
You could buy the little tiny figures, and that's '77 was actually the beginning, and it had a huge success. This film tried to do the same thing, and it created merchandise for it. But it didn't sell.
No,
Now, here's the irony: whoever has it now it sells for a lot of money.
because
A
it's limited
lot of
edition
money.
collectors item.
Exactly.
And I mean, it cannot be compared really because Star Wars is a whole saga with a bunch of other backstory and material like comics. Ray told me about like audio dramas
Yes.
and
Oh, yeah.
cassettes
Yes.
I didn't even know of. So Star Wars is a lot more vast
Yes.
on their category than this. This was just one movie and comics. You told me
No, the comics was about the other movie.
about the so not even comics.
Oh, I had a comic version of this.
Oh, you had a comic version. of it?
I had picture books and
That's the merchandise.
novelization and comic. I built a Vincent, model Vincent, and his legs
How big it
popped
was?
out. Oh, about yay big.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And you just go.
Oh,
Play with it.
nice. I mean, with technology today, you can even make actually pretty kick-ass 3D models of it. Probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, 3D printed, yeah.
So what I was going with that is you get vibes of a lot of things here because I think they try to replicate the success of many other IPs. I saw vibes of uh, Indiana Jones
Yeah.
when they were running away.
Actually, Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first movie came out in '81. So actually, it copied this.
Oh, that is interesting because I got the vibe, but then again, we saw this after the fact.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice.
it's a whole scramble universe because when you think about it, it's like you watch The Matrix and then you watch actually Ghost in the Shell. It came 4 or 5 years before. There's a lot of things that are like replicable frame by frame.
Mhm.
I even actually there's a video I'll look it up later, but there's a video that compares the Matrix, it compares Interstellar, it compares Inception, and then it puts Automoto creation movies frame by frame. Those specific scenes were exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like I don't remember where I saw it or where I heard it, but it's like there's nothing really original. You always have to drag from something to create something new. It's very odd for something to be completely authentic and non-related to anything in this universe. It always comes from somewhere. There's always a source.
Well, I think we talked on the show about this, and it's just it's how sci-fi works, right? And I think it is a testament to how influential an actual IP is,
Yeah.
and how it would replicate. Like our the 2001 Space Odyssey movie is one example of that, and how influential it
Yes.
was.
Yes.
And this has shades of that near the end as well.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. Although I was making fun when Robert said actually Space Odyssey, I told him no, they were actually going through a spiritual tunnel to the Lothlorien forest to visit actually Galadriel.
Oh, is that what it was? Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if Pfizer would have got 3 strands of her hair or something.
They should have put the doctor at the end of the tunnel saying, "You shall not pass."
He might have tried that.
Yeah. Well, Maximilian was like a mini Balrog.
Mm. He was as grumpy as a Balrog. Give him that much.
Silent motherfucker.
Did you notice that he destroyed the doctor's work to kill Durant?
Yep. He was onto something. I mean, Robert actually inferred that he might not have been under the control of the doctor. I always stay with the doubt. I think that at the end, what it turned out to be is he might actually been playing like he was following the doctor's order, but he had a mind of its own.
Oh yeah.
Because that he did at the end was pure self-preservation instinct, which is a very human thing or very primal thing of any living animal or insect, really.
Yeah.
Self-preservation. So, which shows or tries to depict on the movie how advanced this AI were.
Yeah.
I mean, and don't go further with actually when Vincent and Bob were on the shooting range with bootleg Darth Vader.
Star.
Star.
I don't even remember what it stands for, and I don't want to. But basically, Bob is telling Vincent how he burned a fuse of doing a tantrum because he lost, and he's so emotional actually throughout the match. So it's very interesting to see that even though that was the technology at the time, this AI depict actually very very advanced technology in AI
Yeah.
programming to be able to actually experience and depict any kind of emotion.
And they're not far away from us. Isn't it like just over 100 years from now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
but let me ask you guys: do you think that we're gonna have to wait till then to see actually more advanced robots than that? I think that we're beyond that already. That kind of robotics.
Elon's going to have to get his skates on to build something that big and get it out there, though.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be a combination of an AI that passed the Turing test, which I don't think that we're 50 years away from that, and Boston Dynamics robots, which is fully functional and independent, actually, mechanics.
I don't know why
I
I
want
want
to actually shoot and fight something.
I don't know if I want to say AI, not a robot, right? Just AI. We might be 7 years away.
There you go.
Under 10. What do you think,
I
Ray?
believe it.
See, the thing
That
about
passes the Turing test.
And here's my keyword, right? AI. I'm not talking about robot technology. I'm just talking about plain software.
Neural network.
Sure. So the thing about scientific advancement is you get sudden leaps when something is discovered, like electricity, DNA, splitting the atom, all those sorts of things. So, we should expect in the next 10 to 15 years that there will be at least one scientific advancement which, catapults us ahead. And that could be sentient AI for all we know. I mean, we may not even do it deliberately. It may happen by accident, but
Machine learning.
These sorts of things suddenly come on us and we've got to learn to deal with them really quickly. Like I'm sure that if we were alive and old enough to be concerned about things at the end of World War II, I mean, a world war is pretty freaking nasty thing to live through, right? Even if you're not on the front lines. But then, I mean, I lived through the Cold War, and I spent a lot of time stressing about getting nuked every second day.
Oh yes, I was in Miami at the time, and that was really close to Cuba.
I mean, you could have got nuked without even knowing it was coming because they weren't far away.
I remember being scared out of my mind.
But imagine getting the news that nuclear bombs have been dropped on Japan and they'd capitulated. You'd be really happy that the war's over, but it's like nuclear bombs. They split the atom and blew up cities. That's freaking scary.
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
watching
should
a documentary about
humanity have that sort of power? Probably
no,
not.
no. I was gonna use this quote from Albert Einstein actually, which says that he doesn't know what World War III is gonna be fought with, but the Fourth World War is gonna be fought with stone and sticks,
Yep, sticks and rocks.
sticks
Yep.
and rocks, and that tells a lot about. I mean, they say that you just need 100 warheads to destroy the whole Earth and decimate it to 0.1% of the population. That's a lot of death.
Well, it's not.
Imagine with 100. We have a lot more than 100 warheads in the whole planet.
Well, the whole thing is, it's not just the bombs going off and blowing up cities and stuff. It's what happens with the fallout
Aftermath.
and the nuclear winter.
Yeah.
All of the secondary effects will probably kill more people than the primary effects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
we'll have no food. The temperature will drop. We could end up with an ice age. Who knows?
Even
The
if we have
whole planet could be fucked.
even if we have food, it will kill. The radiation will kill you eventually and very very quick. I mean, don't go further. I was watching not too long ago a documentary about Bikini Bottom, and the citizens of the city, how they had to evacuate it. They put it back in. They re-evacuate them, and they definitely had not were never able to come back until this day. You go and radiation is so high, it looks beautiful, flush, but it's just like a Chernobyl. Chernobyl looks gorgeous and flourishing with nature, but people cannot live in there.
Um,
It's hundreds and
And,
hundreds of
and, and worms as thick as your arm.
slimy but delicious.
There's a topic that I want to talk about. And I don't know if it's again me overthinking. You know me with my overthinking. I have to have it. I
No,
have to
Robert,
have it.
you need a spacesuit to survive in the outer space.
I
Hey, is space overthinking better than just normal overthinking?
no, it sounds better. It sounds better.
That's what I call intellectually lethargic.
The topic of black holes, right? And the topic of that we have in this film, technological advancement. So we know basics of black hole, obviously, because of the research that has been done by scientists, and mathematical equations that have actually helped prove theories. Obviously, we haven't sent anything out there to actually do more research, but math really helps, right, to resolve this, but it kind of proves some of the concepts that we have. So on the black hole, the topic of gravity and how gravity is so great that nothing escapes, even light. So in this film, we see Dr. Reinhardt invented a anti-gravity, and this is what he outfitted the ship to be able to go through the black hole in a way that gravity would not affect them and kill them all. In part was what happened at the end. This is what happened at the end of the film when you had the asteroids come in and destroy the anti-gravity. We actually saw it in film how the thing collapsed, and then everything started crumbling because of under the gravity of that black hole. So my question is, how plausible would something like this be? I mean, obviously the concept makes sense because you're dealing with gravity. You need a big source of energy to cause an anti-gravity enough to cause this, for this being an actual effective way to go through that. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying there's no anti-gravity today.
No.
The research is, this is something that is being researched because obviously it will be great for space exploration.
It's gonna be the new frontier of space exploration. I think.
Imagine having a ship that can actually lift off from Earth without all the payload that is required for power to release us from the gravity of the Earth.
It will reduce the consumption of energy that you need for it to a decimal.
Exactly. You can have a ship huge enough to have cargo and build freaking space stations.
Yeah, it's an
Without
exponential increment of our resources, literally.
so it would be an advance in our humanity, in a civilization.
Milestone.
So I just wanted to preface that, but the reason why I want to say is it sounds plausible in the explanation. What do you guys think about that way of handling? Granted, we already talked about what would happen after. We could probably talk about this. What would happen after you actually cross the event horizon? Because that's a completely different story.
Can I add a little bit of context to this
Go ahead.
conversation? So we're looking at a movie that's working off theories from the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you watch it today and you might think, oh, this is old and hackneyed and rah, rah, rah. Now, let me give you some context. It wasn't until 2015 that gravitational waves were actually detected for the first time.
Yeah.
They were theorized, but they're never actually been detected. Gravity is actually quite a weak force compared to a lot of other forces like ionic bonds and things like that. But it is a force that is created by every single bit of mass in the universe, and they all interact with each other. So gravity, while not particularly strong per gram or pound or whatever measuring system you want to use of matter, it is a very far-reaching force. It has a long distance of effect.
Yeah.
So they used a very sensitive instrument called an LIGO, which is a laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory. These first gravitational waves happened when two black holes crashed into each other. So you got to think that merging black holes would create some pretty serious gravitational waves, and they were the only ones we could detect. Trying to detect the gravitational waves produced by yourself or myself, or even the planet Earth or the sun, would be difficult because they're so weak, but they're so far-reaching.
I mean, they'll go further. That's why Jupiter, our system giant, behaves like a system shield, literally, right? Because it keeps many asteroids and things that are coming from outer space from actually going through because of the great gravity that Jupiter had itself.
Well, the whole formation of our solar system is a bit on the unique side because most solar systems end up with what's called hot Jupiters. So the big planets end up migrating inwards, sucking up all of the little planets inside their original orbit where they coalesced. And then they end up orbiting really close to the star because they both have strong gravitational fields and they suck themselves in together. But what happened in our solar system and why we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars and asteroid field, which was probably a coalesced planet at one point, got broken up by the strong tidal forces created by Jupiter, is the Saturn. So Saturn actually, they believe Saturn pulled Jupiter back, like Jupiter was coming in and Saturn formed and pulled it back out again. So the relative gravity of Saturn was stronger than the pull of the sun and kept, the relative gravity of Saturn was enough to keep Jupiter from migrating inwards and kept it in the outer solar system so that our rocky planets could be here for, life to develop on one of them. So, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were very close of not existing.
Now, would you two agree that I think that besides quantum technology, what's going to be the milestone that is going to allow us to unlock technology that will let us understand better anti-gravity? It's going to be when we actually get to understand dark matter.
Well, before you go and answer that question, Ray, I want to say it's interesting. It's interesting that he mentions that because in quantum theory, the particle that actually carries gravitational force is called gravitons.
Graviton.
But we did not discover that until we actually study the realm of quantum, the quantum theory. So when you said that, it's a little, I get a little excited because we're that much closer
Yes.
to understanding gravitons and how they work And it only takes us understanding a thing to solve a problem.
Yes. And before Ray answered, I think that the way I see it on simple ways, I think that dark matter is the X on the equation that we still yet to resolve to get a wider, better understanding of things in the outer space and harness that power.
Yeah, that dark matter, I think, is a dark matter
Dark matter, yeah.
is what we need to actually create a warp drive.
And dark matter in the outer space is the majority of components between bodies, celestial bodies, that we don't understand. It's
Yeah.
dark matter. Everything between here and any other celestial body, besides gravity and the matter of itself and their elements, is dark matter that we don't understand what it is and how it works.
Let me correct myself. And I just got to track back. I'm not talking about dark matter. I was talking about antimatter.
Antimatter. Okay.
Sorry. So I don't know if you were going to say that, and I do apologize if I interrupted, but I just had to mention that really gets me excited. The fact that we learn about gravitons after we study quantum theory.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to know about. There's a quote from Douglas Adams, which is whenever the study of the universe comes to a point where sentient beings start to understand what's going on, the universe becomes infinitely more complex.
Yeah.
This is believed to have already happened.
Oh, yes.
Here's the theory of not know the learning that you don't know anything. It's the first step to wisdom.
Yes. I've been on that first step for a lot of years now.
Yeah, it's like quitting smoking, bro. It's a habit.
It excites me too, because we don't know, so we ask questions to know the answer and realize that we don't know what we're asking.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that makes sense.
Totally.
But that's the issue, is that we don't know the questions we should ask to get the answers we're looking for.
Well, that was covered in Hitchhiker's Guide as well. The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42, but what is the actual question?
Exactly. So
that is clever.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna quote something sci-fi that I was watching that I didn't mention. I don't know why, because it's awesome, and I think that we haven't covered it. But this is accelerating, guys. Get excited. Have you watched that, Ray?
No.
Dr. Stone?
No.
Oh, I've watched. No, you've done an episode on Dr. Stone before I joined.
We've done an episode.
We need to do more, bro. I just
we need to do more.
The new arc, bro. Oh my god, it's so good.
We need to do more.
Yeah. I think that. What do you think about that I mentioned, Ray? What do you think? Do you think that that's right? That once we actually get to start comprehending or grasp the concept of what's dark matter, might unlock a whole new frontier of science for us?
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's happened so many times already. Nuclear science in the 40s and 50s. I mean, who would have believed back in the 1900s that 50 years later they'd have nuclear reactors?
Yeah.
Creating power. I mean, it only took 66 years between the first powered flight and going to the moon.
Yeah.
66 years. That's nothing.
Well, who would have believed back then even that the proton, the electron, and the neutrons were not the end of it? It actually goes smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Well, my father was taught the smallest object of matter was the atom.
The atom.
And there was nothing smaller. And then about 8 years after he was taught that, it was the understanding was expanded because they split the atom. So
yeah. That's how ever growing and changing. I mean, science is. I think that science encases the whole nature of life itself, which is constant, ever change.
Yeah,
it's not. It's just. It's not just life. It's existence. Like everything.
Everything that's around us. Yeah, absolutely.
Science is the study of everything.
Yeah. So going back to the film and back to the question, and now that we talked really in depth, which was really good. for really talking about the question that I was asking is, in the film they have created an anti-gravity field that actually helps this ship traverse into the black hole, which in a way that is still a topic of conversation, because in theory the black hole is only an entry point to a white hole, and the idea is, and at least back then, I don't know if now, is that you could actually traverse that and come out at a point of the universe, kind of like a wormhole. If you, I think, I'm trying to think if it was, which some scientists actually mentioned this about, that would be the typical wormhole.
It's mentioned in the movie. In fact, Reinhardt says we may experience an Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Exactly. So the idea was going through a black hole and come out somewhere in the universe, and into a white hole, which that brings a complete different other questions. But to rein it in, what do you guys think about the possibility that and I know we're not scientifically there, but now knowing the gravitons and the research on gravitons now, what would be the possibility, and does that make sense to you, that you could have some anti-gravity strong enough that could help us go in through a event horizon?
You want to go first, right?
Well, I'm not a physicist, so I do a complete shot in the dark.
Well, my opinion is, and it's funny that you mentioned antimatter, because I feel divided. I'm not sure if the key to go through a black hole to see what's in there without getting molecularly decomposed on the way is going to be either anti-gravity or actually antimatter. Because if you have an antimatter, there's nothing that can cross that barrier, right?
Well,
Not even the forces of gravity itself.
in the film is specifically talking about
Anti-gravity.
And antimatter it has been discussed as being the stopping stone for warp drives right now, because you need to be able to have matter and antimatter so you can create the bend and fold in space that allows a warp travel, FTL travel. But more specifically to gravity and the anti-gravity, it just fascinates me as to how clever at least the writers were smart enough or read enough scientific material to, back in 1979, say, okay, you could probably do this with anti-gravity, because the whole thing that would cause us harm, it's outside the event horizon, is the gravity.
Yeah. I mean, I like watching UFO documentaries and things like this, and I know that they are very famous for just turning into an opposite direction or another direction point blank, something that would mash a human into a spaceship right away.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea behind that is that they probably have some kind of anti-gravity that separates the insides of the ship from any gravitational pull that it creates moving at very high speeds that will kill anything inside.
So the reason why I'm bringing this question up, and I wanted to get your opinion, is I think the amount of power necessary to create a strong enough anti-gravity field to be able to do what is discussed in the movie, it's unimaginable.
Yes, but for the sake of argument, they actually made sure to put it there where Dr. Reinhardt shows the core engine of the ship, and he says, "This is the power of all unit. Oh, this is all the power of the universe." So, even though that might be virtually impossible,
Exactly.
they are supposedly harnessing an infinite amount of energy or power.
I just use Signium. Apparently, it's pretty good.
Huh?
I just use Signium. Apparently, it's pretty good.
What is your thought on that conversation? And I know, again, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist. We're just having a somewhat intelligent, semi-intelligent conversation.
You know enough to be dangerous, put it that way. Well, I mean, it all depends on how gravitons work. I mean, they're now postulated as being the particle that provides gravity to particles. But how do they work? What do they do? It's been described, gravity's been described as a weight pushing down upon the fabric of space-time. So the more gravity, the bigger an object is, the more mass it has, the more it pushes down on space-time. And so things roll down towards it in the hole it creates in space-time. And that's what gravity is. You fall towards things of larger mass because they create a bigger hole when they push down space-time. And a black hole pushes it down so far that it tears through the bottom of it. So imagine if you had a mesh made of nylon or something, and you put like a massive lead weight or something really, really massive, uranium or something, into the middle of it, and it pulled it down and stretched and stretched until it couldn't stretch anymore. It tore through the bottom. That's basically your black hole. It's ripped through the fabric of space-time. But does that just mean that it keeps compressing and everything just goes down and gets squished into nothing? Or is there actually somewhere to go beyond that hole? We don't know because we can't see past the event horizon.
Certainly, it doesn't become nothing. It gets decomposed for sure, but there's nothing that says that it disintegrates to nothing.
There's scientific theory out there that says that, the energy is never destroyed, only transformed.
Transformed, yeah.
So it might turn into something else.
But it doesn't cease to be.
Exactly.
Or it doesn't have an origin. There's an origin always, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it may not be destroyed, but it may be unavailable for the rest of time and space.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I mean, that you've heard of Hawking radiation from a black hole?
Yes.
So that's actually something that comes out of a black hole. And it happens at the event horizon where particles are formed with a matter particle and an antimatter particle. And normally they form, they break apart, and then they fuse back together and obliterate because matter and antimatter obliterate each other. But where does that energy go? Maybe that's the bit you can see around the edge or something like that. But sometimes one of those particles will go into the black hole, and sometimes one of them will go out. And that's your Hawking radiation.
Yeah.
And they say that over immense periods of time, if we get to the heat death of the universe and there's nothing else for the black holes to eat, they will eventually radiate and evaporate into nothing. That's the theory. But of course, none of us will be alive even a small percentage of the time required to watch that happen. So it's only a theory.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many weird things going on around black holes that just don't follow relativity. So they're so hard to understand. And there's really no way to go and watch it and make recordings and come up with other theories because, you get past the event horizon and that's that. You get spaghettified and smished into the smallest space imaginable. So you're not going to be able to record that. But I mean, we don't know exactly what happens in there. It's very romantic in a scientific way to believe that there's an Einstein-Rosen bridge in there, and you can pop out of a white hole somewhere else and actually survive it. Maybe particles can survive it, but not full constructions like biological organisms or ships or anything like that.
The energy that is you survives it. In what form? That's a different question.
Exactly.
So, and this is another thing that I was talking about. Even if we survive the travel, and which is another question that I'm wondering about Dr. Reinhardt's brain. Let's say, for example, that he is able to go into this wormhole and come out into the other side. What scientific in what scientific way he knows that it would be safe, right? Is he going to come out? It might be coming out in a complete different galaxy. Is it coming out in a complete different universe? Is a complete altered universe?
A complete alternative reality.
You know, it would a inverse. So where in that universe matter is antimatter and antimatter is matter.
That could
'Cause
be
that would-
problematic because as soon as you got there, you'd be obliterated.
Exactly.
Oops.
Exactly. I was thinking all these things, and I'm like, that doesn't really seem. I mean, he's
Doesn't
calling
look
it.
like a fun ride on Disney parks.
He survives the black hole only to die when he comes out on the other end.
That's a big if he survives.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, let's assume that he can go through. He doesn't know where he's going to end up.
Well, the movie make a good point that what lies behind a black hole is the nine rings of hell for Dante Alighieri and Divine Comedy. That's typical, you know. I mean, when you get there, that's what you're looking at. What did you thought about that already? When I saw it, I was like, "This is Dante Alighieri Divine Comedy, bro. This guy's going through the nine rings of hell."
It's interesting how they actually even reference that at the beginning of the movie.
Well, as you get closer to the event horizon, time slows down because time and space is being torn to pieces. So is his new reality of the ninth plane of hell actually him dreaming up his own afterlife while he's on the event horizon just before he gets spaghettified?
Yep.
That is a very good question, and we were talking about that. Like, as you approach the event horizon, obviously it's going to be a long death.
For the sake of argument, he actually survived the whole time without a spacesuit.
It's going to be a long death because of time dilation. But is this what we're seeing? He's as he's being destroyed, because it's supposed to happen really fast for the self. It's only for the observer that it's going to be a long death.
Yeah.
But for the self, it should happen really fast. I imagine. I don't want to test that theory, right? So, is this what we're seeing? His own death, like it was, and I understand that the point of the filmmakers in this ending. They're trying to make something. Not only doing a kind of like not copy. I don't want to
It's
say
not
copy,
hard
but
science.
2001 Space Odyssey, right? But they're trying to explain a concept that doesn't have an explanation.
Yes, and I mean, even though we took a little bit of 2001, like that, and I mean, the Rings of Hell and Dante Alighieri Divine Comedy, that was at the end of the movie. It doesn't really takes much from Space Odyssey, and then again, on top of that, you have the probe that made it through.
And they have a complete different experience.
Exactly.
No, did they made it through? We don't know.
No, we don't know. Well, we'll have to ask Vincent for that because Bob didn't make it.
Poor Bob.
Oh, without me, you'll leave on me. You got the best of us.
So another movie that had one of those psychedelic traveling through funky corridor scenes in it was in the same year, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yes.
Had the same thing.
And it's also one of the last movies that had the overture at the beginning of the film.
Hmm.
Interesting enough.
Yeah.
So we kind of skipped through all the normal questions that we did because this is very. Would you agree? This is a
movie
very
that leaves just one impression. The last one.
no, but it is very impressionable.
Yes, it is. It is.
You might have your problems with certain things, like the first thing that you notice at the beginning of the film is the thrusters. Remember? So how they're trying to dock to the Cygnus and they're firing out the thrusters, yet the thing is going the other way. Doesn't really seem right to me because
it was decelerating. You used deceleration thrust to stop you.
Well, I was thinking about that.
But they
Um.
did that before they actually approached the ship too,
Well,
and they were off for a good while talking crap.
he has a really good point because maybe they shot it and it wasn't, because you have to be careful when you're deceleration. So maybe let me know if you agree with this. Maybe they shot the thrusters and shut it down because they don't want to overshoot. That's another problem in space, is that you don't want to overshoot because otherwise you just crash, right? So maybe they stopped it, right? And they realized, no, we're still too fast, and they shot it again. Would you think that's what happened? Because you have a really good point. I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Because two objects in space moving towards each other will crash into each other unless one of them slows down.
Now, here's what's gonna make your noodle is that they are actually trying to dock onto something that has anti-gravity because they are actually within the hostile zone of a black hole. So that makes the equation even more complex.
It does.
And on top of that, that's why you have mathematics and physics. So you do that stopping thrusters way far from your docking place so you don't burn the heck out of wherever you're going to. You know? That's why you use the air compressors once you're moving at a slower
That's
pace speed to
that's
do the
not
docking.
that's not going to be strong enough to stop a ship.
No, that's what I'm saying. The thrusters are used at a considerable distance. So by the time that you are nearby, you don't dare to turn on the thrusters. I mean, when you're looking at hard science documentaries or movies that actually use good physics and the hard science, never, even in The Expanse, which is actually very, very good with hard science, you never see a ship using the thrusters at a considerable distance from a docking place because that would obliterate whatever they're getting near to. You feel me?
You could also end up pushing it away from you as well.
True.
Exactly.
Mess up its orbit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we were playing the devil's advocate there. I don't know.
Surely.
I mean, I can see it's a little bit in the yes column and a fair bit in the no column. I mean, what they should have done was when they came back past the ship is decelerated from their flyby and then accelerated towards the ship slowly and then spun and decelerated again to dock.
Thank you.
So that's what they should have done, but they just sort of went me 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 me. Didn't quite work.
Bob would have think like Ray thinks. Bob would have died on the movie.
Yeah, poor Bob. I feel sorry for Bob.
Bob had it rough. He was a Florida Bob.
It's Florida Bob.
Well, the good thing is that Vincent actually did a pee hole for Maximilian. So
he might have been hanging on for 20 years, man. Maybe that's why he was so grumpy. He needed a piss.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, when he ate Dr. Reinhardt, I think that Dr. Reinhardt was happy he had a pulsar penis.
I gotta let my cat out. She's gonna wee.
It's actually interesting that you said that, because if you think about the how Maximilian killed the doctor, I forgot his name now. The with a turning hand, or like the propeller type. How he killed that doctor, and I do apologize, I forgot the name of the doctor, but it is echoed in how Maximilian died, because if you think about it, this is exactly what Vincent did to him.
It was Durant.
Oh yeah, Dr. Durant. So what do you think about that? I was just, it was really interesting to me that it was, die by the sword, kill with the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah, but I think that it was something that he had in common because he was pretty banged up when he was found at the beginning already, and then he actually got banged up throughout the movie plenty of times, so much that I was surprised he didn't die earlier. Because in several of the shootings, he actually took fire.
No, but I was talking about Vincent.
About Vincent.
Because Vincent is the one who actually killed Maximilian, but he killed him exactly how Maximilian killed the doctor.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
And he had another way because he cannot penetrate it with beams, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He actually had some kind of plate that would not be penetrated by any kind of blaster. So if you think about it, there was no really other way for him to kill Maximilian than trying to get under that armor and just squash everything inside.
Poor Dr. Duran.
Yeah.
And he
had
got
it rough.
killed in the most Disney way possible.
Behind
You
a
realize
book.
that?
With books.
You see no blood splatter
No.
anywhere.
He just got fried and electrocuted in an
Not-
infinite pool of energy of the universe.
You
No
know,
blood.
when I was 10, I had bad dreams about that death.
Yeah. What you imagine? I was I was 7 when this movie came out? No, 9. I was 9 when this movie came out. So of course I'm gonna have nightmares.
I wasn't even my father's testicles.
But what I was talking about is this propeller, if you want to call it, drill into Dr. Duran's chest.
Yep.
There should have been some blood splatter everywhere.
They really should have.
I just wanted to touch his heart, man.
So yeah. Oh,
But the fact that Maximilian didn't give a shit about his master's notes and his 20 years of work, that was more of a tell than killing Durant, because he didn't care about Reinhardt and what he was interested in.
Yeah.
I always thought that Kate's father was inside Maximilian. That's what I thought.
And you have a point, but
and he still hated the guy's guts.
Yes, because he let
him die.
That would make sense. Help me, Maximilian.
The only thing that we missed is when the elevator is closing for Maximilian to say "fuck you," and then show him like one propeller.
Death by MTV.
There you go. But
he got televised.
Ray, you
no more reruns.
You have a point, and the reason why I was thinking about that is, why Maximilian didn't kill Kate, Dr. McCree.
Mm.
I mean, he was already in the rampage, and he killed Dr. Duran, and Kate was next to it. So that's why I say you got a really good point. He might as well be Kate's father.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't in the movie. It just meant my.
Kate, I am your father.
No, that's impossible.
No, we can't. That was in one of the earlier scripts. They crossed that bit out.
We didn't want to get hit with some copyright.
Copyright infringement.
Wow, 79 was before 82, which was when Empire came out. So.
But if you think about it, anyways, from a logical standpoint, the Dr. McCree didn't represent any kind of danger or infringement on this escape plan that Maximilian had of his own either.
But Maximilian was a it seemed, at least that's the perception that I got. He got his jollies out of killing.
Yes.
And that's why Dr. Reinhardt had to actually stop him every single time. Like, you shouldn't have done that. Don't do that. Or like step that. Remember when they first came into the ship, how he was like already ready to kill.
Yeah.
What was it? Charlie? The Lieutenant Pfizer?
Yes.
And he had to stop him. So he's like a psychotic robot.
Yeah, it was. It was a killing spree of sorts, really.
Which is why I think there was a person in there.
Very confrontational too, actually.
Exactly.
On its own. The first meeting with Vincent, he actually stepped on the way not to let him pass.
Yes.
If he was very confrontational.
So you have a point there, because if we look at all the actual robots, not the people that got converted into robots, those were actually acting like robots.
Mm-hmm.
Not technically, because
they were acting like lobotomized people.
Yeah, because Star was getting his he wasn't really feeling well when Bob beat him at the laser shot.
Yeah.
So no, I'll take that back. Maybe they're all part of the crew, and he just converted them all.
That was my feeling.
Yeah.
And I mean, bootleg Darth Vader was being very flashy with the shooting range because he was going like pyum 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 pyum. It's like what?
And going. He wasn't spinning the guns. He was just spinning his wrists.
Yeah, he was like,
Welcome to the Wild Wild West in the space.
Oh wow! So I guess we can answer all three first and last question, and I can go first. I saw, unfortunately, one of my regrets, and that is not technically a regret because I had no control over it, is the fact that I never got to see this film in the theaters, and I
You
would have
missed out.
to be able to see, because it would have been an incredible experience to watch this in a big screen.
That big fireball coming down the main shaft was
Yes.
scary on a big screen. Like the
Yeah.
two things that worried me was the death of Dr. Durant and that big fireball thing. Those two things I dreamt about, had nightmares about afterwards.
Robert, what was my first reaction when I saw that?
Oh yeah, he was complaining about how they're breathing.
I was just cracking my ass off like bad when I saw this giant ball and they're running. I was like, no, bro, this is it.
Because and if you've seen the movie, do you know this is the scene where the asteroids just crashed into the ship? So it made a huge hole into it obviously broke the hull. So whatever air is there should have escaped out into space a long time ago. And then this thing is just rolling inside the shaft where these people were walking through. So Captain Chaos here was laughing because they were walking and breathing when the air should have been gone out. And I was just in awe of the spectacle.
Well, I look at it that the giant burning asteroid, not sure why it was burning, but anyway, it was filling the space the air would have left through because the hole was behind it. So anything on the other side of it was being sucked out.
That's exactly what I said.
I expect that out from Ray, but not from you.
That is
from Robert, not from you, Ray.
That is exactly what I said, and why Captain Chaos wants to take my sci-fi card away.
You just gave me one first-hand disappointment right there, Ray. You're the scientist.
I'm not out your mouth.
No, I think they should have been suffering from a bit of decompression.
You're a biologist. You're a biologist. I don't blame you, man.
Oh god, yep. So that my first impression about this film is I actually watched this. I think it was on VHS. And again, like I said, watching. I can't remember how old I was. I was younger. I can't remember how old I was when I saw this for the first time. But I remember wishing I would have seen this in the movie theater. The movie was a lot of fun when I watched it for the first time. And I was far less critical of it. Obviously, because I was younger, I didn't know much of what was going on in the film, but the film was fun. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
And it actually got my brain going onto some of the topics. And it was definitely my kind of movie, especially from Disney.
And especially because everybody survived a black hole, even the bad guy.
Well, it's a Disney movie. Okay. So
Durant didn't survive a black hole.
Exactly. Poor Durant. And Bob didn't survive the black hole.
Maybe that's where Durant came from. On the other side of the black hole.
Yeah, it came from someone tried to call him and making sure that he was alive. Duran, are you there? So that my first impression was that it was a fun film, and it actually got me thinking about some of the topics that not at the level that I'm actually thinking about today, which I'm going to get to that on our last question. But I don't know who wants to go next as the first. Gio, I think Gio was today's years old, so I wonder if we should let him go first and then move on to you.
You go first. You go first, Gio.
I think it was a fun watch. I think that within the realm of the technology, I've said this before, but movies show you too the technological place that they're at when the time that they were made of. Even though the landing on the moon happened 10 years before, but besides, but I mean, it's a Disney movie too. So I think it was very good watch. it was fun to watch. I think that the bickering and the condescendingness of Vincent put a
Vincent.
spice into the movie. And I mean, I think that for Disney, it was a very dark movie actually, compared to the things that you would see at the time for Disney. And still today, Disney doesn't go that dark when it comes to like that ominousness in between the characters. Like the very first moment that you see the Reinhardt, you see this guy is losing a couple of screws loose in the head. Like you can see like he's lost on his own mind trip, power
In
trip.
Australia, we would say a few kangaroos short in the top paddock.
Oh yeah, definitely. That she was bouncy up here.
A few sandwiches short of a picnic.
but I think that it was a fun watch. It got me cracking, and I think it had some artistical touch to it too. Like by the end, like how they portray and I think that it was a good attempt to strive for originality too. So
Yeah.
I think it was a good movie, and I definitely would suggest it to be watched. I think that even though it was not one of those movies that like revolutionized filmmaking on its own on its genre, it's one of the big ones for the time. Actually, it was a
Hmm.
very good movie.
Awesome. So Gio actually answered his last question, and it's only because he saw it today. There's no other comparison.
Yeah.
I'll let
That's two butts and a laser blast instead of two birds in a rock and a shot.
I'll let our mad scientist answer. I guess you can answer the first question and then move on to the last question, and then I can move on to my last, which was, what is your last impression of the film?
Well, yeah, I saw it when I was 10 in cinemas, and as I've mentioned with Blade Runner, when you're around 10 to 13, preteen, you don't get all the deep social interactions and the sort of foreshadowing and the negativity and the sort of dark undertones. You miss most of that. You just sort of pick up on the action. So the flaming asteroid down the middle shaft and the death of Durant were the things that stuck in my mind. And I had nightmares about, but the opening sequence on the big screen, I'll never forget it. It was fantastic. It was one of those sort of big things, like the opening of Star Wars, the first time you saw it on the big screen. It had the same sort of impact. So this movie had quite an impact on me. Just like Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica, I had toys for this one as well. So it wasn't as an impactful movie as like Battlestar Galactica or Star Wars or 2001, but it does have its place, I feel. It was quite the departure for Disney. Having said that it was not the usual sort of Disney movie at the time, there was the talk of a possible remake as early as 2009, because you know how Disney likes to remake their movies. But when the script was being put together, Interstellar came out in 2014, and the script, as they were working on it for the re-release, was considered too similar to Interstellar, so they shelved it. And they also said that it didn't fit Disney's vibe of fun, positivity, and all that. So I'll just read a quote here. So in 2016, it was announced that the remake was put on hold because Spat's script, Spates was the guy who was writing the script, was considered too dark for a Disney movie. Spates commented, "Black Hole was an amazing experience. That was one of those movies I was stuck on until I cracked the beginning and suddenly just began to flow. I love the script. It sits easily in Disney's world of dark epic, and Disney is a very colorful place." It sits uneasily in Disney's world as a dark epic. They already have multiple big space epics going, so I don't know how this. I don't know how or whether it will find its way to the light of day, but I sure wrote a heck of a movie, and I was thrilled to do it. It was very faithful to the original, but clever in all the ways that a film in that first film was silly, I hope. So he admitted that the original film was a bit on the silly side in certain places, and he was working on modernizing the script, but it sits on the shelf to this day, not having been made, which is a shame. Because I think that's one that would have been nice to have been made, but I'm actually really surprised that Disney put this out in the first place, because it doesn't really fit with their bright and colourful sort of face that they show the world.
True.
Yeah.
But having said that, it is a flawed movie certainly in the science. But if you can overlook some of those, I know Gio can't. If you can, it has a lot to recommend it. As a kid, there was enough action in it to keep me going, and there was a lot of head scratching as a 10-year-old about what was going on, what were all these adults doing, and why was a robot killing them, and stuff like that. But rewatching it just last night as an adult, and I now watch movies with a completely different mindset to do with the story and the toning and all that sort of thing, thanks to working on this podcast. And there is almost enough to recommend this movie along the same lines as Blade Runner. Blade Runner's dark. It talks about, what we're going to face in the future and how we're going to deal with it, and how things might end up, and what the next slave caste might be, and all that sort of stuff, and is that reasonable, and should it be like that, and anything that thinks should have rights, and there's so many different levels to Blade Runner. And this movie talks about slavery as well, because the crew was enslaved by Reinhardt.
Yep.
Yeah.
And robots with emotions and smart mouth floating tin cans and all that sort of thing. But there's a lot to unpack, as you said earlier, in this movie, and there's a lot to recommend it. I think it's well worth a watch. And it sits in an interesting position between the first two released Star Wars movies, post Battlestar Galactica, before all those knockoffs of Star Wars that we saw through the 80s, and before things started to go quiet in science fiction, before the 90s really got rolling. But yeah, I think it's got its own position. It's got its own tone. It does have a dark sort of feel to it, sort of Blade Runner-ish, and I really do think it's worth a watch if you're not going to be too critical of the science fails.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its adventure, it's got its dark undertones, it's got its questions it asks, and I really do think that they did pretty well with representing the black hole. I mean, it doesn't quite look like the photos that we got more recently of actual black holes. I mean, the only way you could visualize a black hole was light lensing from stars behind it.
Yes.
Until 2019. People don't realize that often realize that, this was 1979, and it took 89, 99, 2009, 2000. Took 40 years before we actually got a proper picture of a black hole.
Yeah.
40 years later. So the representation of a black hole here doesn't look like the pictures you have been seeing behind our talking heads here during this episode. But the fact that we've only for the past 4 years had an actual picture of a black hole, based that this movie was almost 45 years old now. I think they did a fantastic job with the science for what they knew at the time.
I agree. So to answer my last impression on this film, and I want to kind of echo what our mad scientist said here. There was a lot of head scratching for me when I first watched it. Granted, like I said, I was 9 years old. There's not much there for 9-year-old. I remember the movie was fun, but there was a lot of head scratching on some of the topics in this film at the time that I watched it. And as an adult, and I have rewatched this, not as much as I would want to admit. I've seen this a couple of times after the fact. There was head scratching as an adult,
So
Um,
much head scratching, it starts
but
to sound like lice.
but but not uh, interesting enough. Not about the same topics, obviously, that I scratched my head as a child, but some of the other topics, um, but in a fun way, right?
Hey, Gio, you better get him some head and shoulders. Too much head scratching.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you
So
get him enough, you could actually kill aliens from another world.
exactly,
Yep. That's a good movie.
another great movie.
But remember, you gotta put that head and shoulders up their asses.
That's right.
Caw-caw, caw-caw.
So how can you tell if you're an alien from another world? Well, if you put head and shoulders up your ass and you explode, you know you're.
Well, we are in times where people put weird shit up their
Oh
asses.
my
So
god, yeah.
let's leave it at that.
So going back to what I was going to say is this, just like you said on the quote, this has its silly side, and
Oh, yeah.
that's the part where I had my adult head scratching on this film. But that did not take away from the fun of the movie, and how the scientific topics that it actually brought into my head. As an adult, I appreciate those parts that I did not appreciate as a child when I watched this. And make me wonder, and make me just awe on how this topics, and how about the topics, and I have to remember that this film was actually made in 1979. and
Mhm.
and and, and that's the part that I said I'm in awe, because we knew, like I said earlier in the show, the scientific community has a lot of knowledge, and the reason why is because some research might take years, 20, 30, 40 years, right? But the common knowledge, for the average person, is the one where I'm actually was shocked, to know that this was topics that were included in this film back in 1979.
Yep.
So I really, really enjoy this film. And again, I'm gonna say, just like Gio, you can mention this. It has a silly side. It
Yeah,
has a
it
lot.
does. It definitely does.
We talked throughout the show, and how there's a lot of things that you're going to see, like, and like I said, slightly on the campy side too,
Yeah.
right?
It was tastefully done, though. It was not like they overdid it. It was not like it got tiring or boring. They did it tastefully, though. So you can see just there that it was a great work of art for filmmaking. Really.
And it was very surprising, not only as a kid, but in retrospect as an adult watching this film, and that this was an actual Disney film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a Marvel, it's not a Fox, it's not it's a Disney film, and is as dark. Granted, in the end, there's the appearance that everybody survived, including the bad guy,
Yes.
right? And when I say appearance, is because we really, really don't know what really happened if we're actually watching. But that goes in line with the stuff that Disney pushes out, where, most Disney movies, at least the main character is alive at the end of the film, and there's a happy ending, right? There's kind of like semi happy ending in the
No,
fact that they're
no, no, because when Simba came back to the stone, Scar died. Not all bad guys. So right.
so yeah. So this one goes, in your point of view, this goes beyond what Disney pushes out,
That's what
where
I that's
even
what I said, that it was kind of dark actually for Disney, but still it was a good tastefully made movie, really.
exactly. And I think it is an enjoyable movie if you can get past that slight campiness that you see. But I mean, even at that, if you can take our very own Captain Chaos opinion here in this film, that should say a lot.
And here's the thing. Let me clarify, because the problem with many consumers of all kind of products is that they go to watch a movie to get a comic book or see a story, and they come with preconceived expectations, and that's very, very wrong, because you have to go watch and take what you're going to consume by what it is. You cannot go with a preconceived notion because you're never gonna be pleased. You're never gonna be fulfilled or even enjoy what you're getting because it's like you're bringing something that it's not there and expecting it to be it. That's the
Mhm.
beauty of getting to watch something or see something or consume any kind of media and loving it and enjoying it for what it is.
Yes.
You know.
Awesome. Okay. So I believe this concludes.
Just before you do, I just wanted to pass this on to Gio because he'll be happy.
Ooh.
So in the wiki, there's a section about what the movie got nominated for. So the voice of Bob was Slim Pickens. Have you heard of Slim Pickens?
No. Who was Slim Pickens?
I think he was a country singer.
Oh, bro.
There you
I'm
go.
very selective with country.
Yeah, and Vincent was voiced by Roddy McDowall. So so there's Stinkers in the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. Both of them were nominated for the most annoying non-human character in 1979.
Nice.
I thought GM would appreciate it.
Was Maximilian done by RT D2 before he actually had beeping sounds?
Possibly. R2D2, I am your father. Flashed in Morse code from the eye socket.
That was Star. That said it. I am not your father. Pew, pew, pew. Pew.
Oh, wow. Nice. So, okay. So I guess we can move on to our last segment.
The science in sci-fi.
So, do we have a science for this? I have a couple of,
Is there science in this movie?
well, there is.
Just kidding. There is.
He is kidding, but there is a lot of science.
Yeah, there
in
is a
this.
lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to. Do you have your own or?
Look at Ray. He just got like him ready to sweat my brain position. Like,
There we
this
go.
is gonna be good.
No, I just read this and because I keep glancing at various sections of the wiki while you guys are talking, and I just read this. I got to pass this along. In 2014, astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson deemed the film to be the least scientifically accurate movie of all time.
No should, Sherlock.
Criticizing the film, he noted they not only got none of the physics right about falling into a black hole, had they gotten it right, it would have been a vastly more interesting movie.
Oh God, Neil, come on, man.
But that brings to light the fact that I would love to see this film being remade to where they fix all those.
Yeah.
Oh, it would have been a whole different movie.
It would have been,
Completely.
and the trick is trying to make it fit the Disney's, feel.
I don't think spaghettification of a person would really fit with Disney's brand.
Well, they can skip that part. They can make it like they ended this film, where they were in some metaphysical plane.
Pretty hallways.
I mean, they can go even like do like a close up telescopically and just show like molecules just separating, and not be graphic about it while being really graphic about it close up. There's many ways that you can actually infer what's happening without really showing it and give you the whole experience. And I think that the whole darkness behind the movie shows that Disney can go out of their comfort zone to do films that can be dark too, because this movie have a lot of darkness too.
Yes,
into it.
It was really
like,
dark.
You can see behind the characters and the backstories bring all of that to richness if you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, why it was a little bit hokey, there was a lot of drama in it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have. Do you have a science, Ray? Or I kind of got a couple of bullet points here of things that some of them are interesting to talk about, but I don't know if you have anything that you want to go through.
The one that kind of piqued my interest was the lobotomized crew and using that to control them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was Yay for Wikipedia. I hope it's right. But lobotomy is not a new thing. I remember watching a TV show about a person who was lobotomized. And basically what they're doing with the lobotomy is they're disconnecting the frontal cortex, which is the bit right at the very front of the brain, just behind your forehead here, from the rest of the brain. Now, a lot of people who have severe mental disorders like schizophrenia, when you do that, it reduces the sort of intensity of their
the episodes.
Yeah, exactly, of the episodes. So, and they become a more easy to talk to and reason with and control, that sort of thing. So I can kind of see why they chose in this movie to call it, well, in the description, to call it lobotomized crew members, and that they were using that to control the crew. I don't know that from a basic lobotomy that the crew would just act like automatons and not like listen to anybody or do anything beyond what they've been programmed to do.
Yeah.
One of the statements that Bob made was that he said that they're more robots than people now.
Yeah.
And he might have meant that they'd actually had some technology implanted into them.
True.
As well.
Do you agree? And this is something that I was thinking about too. And it's also a topic of science when it comes to space exploration, is the psychological effects of isolation.
Oh yeah.
Considering
A.D. Astra actually plays that very much well.
Exactly. So I was just, when you're talking about these humans and this that were lobotomized, and the first thing that comes to mind is like, what was those effects? I mean, because apparently there was a revolt in here.
Yeah.
And
led by Kate's father.
Exactly. So do you feel that, like, because I mean, this is one of my points here. The film explores the psychological effects of isolation of the crew of the USS Cygnus as they journey through space. Well, this is not a scientific fact in itself, right? The theme touches on the psychological challenges faced by real astronauts on long-duration space missions, and this is something that they're being researching even today because of our plans of traveling to Mars, which it would be a long flight of a crew on close proximity to themselves. So it is something they've been researched, I think, with those things that you hear, like one of the biggest things that I can remember is the dome. I forgot how they call that. Where they had people closed in this thing for months, and where they have absolutely no contact with the outside world, and to see how that psychology, how that works, and how they can, because they have to see the reaction so they can research it and come up with solutions for that problem. And it made me wonder about this because this ship apparently was lost for a while now. It makes me wonder. I'm sorry?
20 years.
20 years. And it makes me wonder too, not only that, but would space dilation took a factor on that as well?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So, because if the time dilation was a factor, then there wasn't really long enough for the crew. But it appears that it was, based on what we see once they boarded the ship.
It perhaps wasn't 20 years for Dr. Reinhardt, even though it was 20 years for everybody outside of the zone of the black hole, if you think about it.
Yeah. What do you think of? I only brought it up because this is something that I was really thinking about, how maybe the combination of things made them act the way they were acting in the film.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're talking about a period of maybe 20 or 30 years. I don't know how long they were out on their mission before they were recalled, and then that 20 years passed where the ship was missing. Mm-hmm. So, it could have been 30 years, could have been 40 years. Oh, no, not really. How old was Kate? She looked like she was in her 30s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
No. To me, she looked older, but just for the sake of argument, actually, if you observe very well, when they unmasks the crew, they look like they're decomposing. Their skin doesn't look natural at all in any
No.
stage of a human life.
Well,
So
Reinhardt says that they'd be dead already if it wasn't for him.
Mhm.
yeah, and that's why you can tell that there's not much humanity left in there, even though they were humans, and he killed them to convert them into that. Whatever process they underwent to, there's not much biology going on. I think that that state of decay that you can see on their eyes and on their faces depicts that clearly. That's all these little details that the movie actually kept that gave it that darkness, but kept some reality also into what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the question is, what did they use for like faster than light travel? Because the nearest black hole to Earth that we know of currently is 1,600 light years away.
Could have been cryogenics.
So how did they get there in 10 years? Or
Yeah, that
however
would
long did it
definitely be an FTL.
Well, I think that if there is FTL, I mean they have anti-gravity.
Well, they have to have an FTL to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And it wasn't really expressed in the film. All we see is thrusters.
Yes.
But yeah, it makes sense. It would have to be.
They don't talk about like warp engine, warp drives, warp
Nothing
gates,
yet.
wormholes. They don't even mention these things.
No.
And even the black hole, actually, which Ray mentioned earlier in the episode, and I actually kind of picked at it right away when I saw it, is they show what you see of a black hole from very far away. So for the sake of the movie, the thing got sucked up like this into the black hole, but really would have taken hundreds and hundreds of years or thousands of years really for them to get that close to a black hole just using those thrusters.
Yeah, he has a really good point, Ray. I don't know if you remember that when they were taking a visual of the black hole.
There wasn't an event horizon even visible.
You wasn't even seeing a event horizon. All you it looked
like a galaxy that is around a black hole. That's what you see as a black hole. But that's again, that's the technology that we had at the time. So that's what they're using, you know.
Yeah, but it actually proves a point as the fact of how they had to have an FTL because they went from that view of like a galaxy looking like
Matter
object
of hours.
and all the way to like, okay, here's the black hole. So that kind of travel is an FTL.
Yeah. And it's massive because that was a massive ship.
Yes. Yes.
That was a floating city.
Oh yes.
You know? And it was all Gothic. It kind of reminded me of those late 1800s glass houses. You know, the big glass houses in England.
It reminded me a little bit of two things. It reminded me because of the long portion of the spacecraft of Event Horizon.
Yes.
It also reminded me a bit of Magnetic Rose by Oromoto.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because of the Gothic and Renaissance touch, like how they were having dinner and everything. He was dressed up like a military from freaking Nazis with his medal all in the center and everything, you know?
Yeah.
Like there were these little details that gave you that all new modern thing trapped in time.
Well, he said he was what word did he use? He was he liked the classics. He mentioned that. So, I mean, he was involved in the construction of the ship.
Well, maybe actually bootleg Darth Vader was just Clint Eastwood converting to a droid.
Did I fire 4 laser shots or 5? You feeling lucky, punk? Well, are you? It's the one.
Awesome.
There was one thing I wanted to bring up is never let a newspaper man near the controls of your spaceship. Reporters suck at piloting spaceships.
Especially if you're near a black hole.
That's right.
Remember that.
Oh dear. And you realize that Reinhardt yells out, "Quick, shoot him down before he crashes into us." And he shot him and it caused the thing to spin and it hit one of the 2 reactors because there was actually 2 reactors on either side. Oh, where's my hands? There's 2 reactors on either side of the ship and it took out the one on the left and the one on the right overloaded because he pushed it too hard trying to keep the ship from imploding.
Oh, wow.
And you know, if he let the guy just get sucked off into the black hole, he would have been fine. But he had to shoot at him.
Yeah, that's true. You know, should have left it alone.
I just should have just gone, nope, you can go, bye.
Oh wow. Yeah, we didn't have much. I mean, I got a couple of bullet points here for the science, but this is mostly, uh, I think, is good enough to get your scientific juices flowing, and have you going out and research your answer, because it is true. Most of the stuff is inaccurately, scientifically inaccurate, right? But is a good topic of conversation, and it touches on a lot of topics from the point of view of the creators of the film, based on the times where they when they created this.
Yeah, I mean the whole lambasting of this movie by Neil deGrasse Tyson, in a way, yes, it's fair to say that they got it wrong, but we know a lot more now than they knew back then. So
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was like. Oh man, like I think it's a bit pointless to even bring that up. You know, the whole fact that spacesuits are not really even used throughout the whole movie is like, okay, let's put aside a little bit of hard sci-fi so you can enjoy the movie because it's about actually enjoying the show.
Yeah,
and it was enjoyable.
it was enjoyable. If you put aside the hard sci-fi and then just kind of analyze it after the fact, and just this is the way that I look at it, and I don't know if you guys agree with this or not. Put aside your hard sci-fi, watch this film, enjoy it for what it is, and then after the fact, just mull over the facts, just mull over the scientific points that they're trying to make, and come up with your own scientific thoughts
Hmm.
with the knowledge of today.
Yeah, and I think that this movie actually capitalized more on the psychological mind work of the movie than the hard science on it. You know, that's how I actually got to enjoy more the movie. There was a lot more psychological fuckery going on
yes,
in between the characters, the plotting,
Drama.
the drama. Hook was the name. Booth. Like everybody, even their own team, betrayed them and everything. Like it was smartly done. There was a lot of smart things that happened that played out to make the plot of the movie actually a good twist, if you think about it.
Yeah. Awesome.
don't let the newspaper guy near the controls of the space. Put a fucking key code on that bitch. Don't leave me.
What are those things that you used to put on the? I forgot the name. They're
The steering
metal,
wheel lock.
steering wheel locks. Yeah,
Oh
there you go.
God.
Just put it on there. Awesome. Okay, so I guess this concludes the episode for today. I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode. Obviously, if you haven't seen this film, I recommend you go watch it. It's it's a really good, fun film,
Mhm.
scientific film, and just in my opinion, is part of Disney's history. As to one of those, not only one of the darkest films I ever seen from actual Disney studios, but also a unique experience as a sci-fi film from a company that is not known to actually do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am going to look forward for you guys to reach out to us and let us know what has been your experience with this film. If you watched it prior and then listen to our episode, or if you listen to our episode first and then watch the film, don't forget, if you're listening to us on the pod, we are on YouTube. We need the subscribers. So if you like the show, please go and
Like and
subscribe.
subscribe, yeah.
And this episode will come out a month after. And we do read our comments. So you can comment on the video below.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being with us. Just one more week. We can't wait to have you with us next week. With that said, thank you so much. We really appreciate you with us.
See you next time.